Well, we live in a very strange country where the Sex Discrimination Commissioner seems to not understand the very basic biology of the sexes. Anna Cody does not stand up for women. In fact, she does not even know what a woman is. Now, this week she spoke at the National Press Club, taking to the stage wearing a badge with her pronouns on it, she, her, in case you're interested. So already, as you can see there, it's all going very swimmingly. Now, she was asked about sex-based rights for women, and her answer was just as confusing as the assertion that men can be women.
The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, so CEDAW, is absolutely, it's the Women's Convention. But in understanding, as we have developed, it was signed back in 1979, I believe. Since it's been in force in Australia, it has also been interpreted by the committee that looks at the meaning and the understanding of each of the articles of the Convention. So that includes, and it is specifically said, it includes culturally, racially marginalised women, it includes lesbians, it includes First Nations women, women with disability and trans women. So it absolutely includes all women because that is who women are. We're not one version of woman.
Well, where to even begin? We are not all one version of woman. I mean, how many versions of women does she think that there is? Sex is immutable. There are two sexes, male and female, and look, that does not make me some sort of incredible genius saying that. It is basic biology and basic fact. Trans women are not women. They are biological men. Fancy the Sex Discrimination Commissioner not even knowing the very definition. And it's not the first time she's had some sort of fantasy about what a woman is. In the case of Giggle versus Tickle, where biological man Roxanne Tickle argued he had injured feelings after being booted out of a female-only app by founder Sall Grover, counsel for the Commissioner, Celia Winnett, argued that the word woman in the Sex Discrimination Act included trans women. Now, being an activist for the trans community while being the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, while failing to promote a biological definition of sex-based rights, makes you a total failure at your job. Anna Cody, in my view, is not up to the job if she cannot fulfil her very function of protecting women. And joining me now is Giggle founder Sall Grover. Sall, good to catch up with you. How many different versions of women are there? I mean, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner named several.
Well, first of all, can I just say, brilliant intro. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
She listed women and men. I mean, you can add anything in front of woman as an adjective. We're still all just women. The moment you add trans in front of the word woman, you are talking about men. This is the problem with gender ideology, is that they think that we will picture a woman if they just say the word woman. And in some cases that's happened, that they're right about that. So that's why they push it so hard. And that's why us on the other side push so hard that they're just men. Men can't be women. It's just as simple as that. As you said in your introduction, they're just men. And so to sit there and compare First Nations women to men, it's actually incredibly insulting. Does she actually realize what she's saying there?
I just don't even think she does. And explain the background to us, because she was asked at National Press Club about the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. What does it say, and how does it actually relate to the issues at hand here when it comes to protecting women's spaces and rights?
So the woman who asked her the question, Megan Paul, asked her a brilliant question. And it was basically about Anna Cody not meeting with women's interest groups that do advocate for single-sex spaces, and how this fits in with her obligations to CEDAW. So the background on this, it's complicated and simple at the same time. Basically, Australia has a Sex Discrimination Act because we became a signatory to CEDAW, which is the Convention of the Elimination Discrimination Against Women. It's a UN convention. It was created in 1979. We signed it in 1983, enacted it in our law in 1984. Now, in 1984, there was nothing about men being women. They never thought to mention it because, of course, they didn't. Who would? Cut to 2013, when Julia Gillard's government did amendments to put gender identity into the Act. Now, in those amendments, they never mentioned trans women. Once again, they're not mentioned. It's just gender identity is mentioned. Then cut to more recent times when Anna Cody has intervened in Giggle v Tickle on the side of Tickle, saying that men who claim to be women are women, they should have access to women-only spaces, and she's relying on CEDAW for this. The problem is CEDAW is a UN convention. It has 189 signatories. For any changes to it, all 189 signatories have to agree. It has never happened. Men are not considered women under CEDAW. It is an utter lie to say that they are. There is one tiny sentence in one accompanying document that says "and other status," and they are relying on that other status to be trans women / men who claim to be women. If CEDAW intended men who claim to be women to be considered women in international law, they would have said it. They've had every opportunity to. They never once have. So at best, she is misleading the Parliament, the courts, and the media on this specific issue. She's relying on CEDAW. She is wrong about it. I'm also relying on CEDAW in part of my case because it hasn't happened. We are in breach of CEDAW in Australian law if we are including men as women. And as you said, she's not fit to be the Sex Discrimination Commissioner. It's why I think she should resign, not just because she doesn't know what sex is, because she is misleading 3 different institutions on what the convention that her act relies on says.
Look, and I think it's just extraordinary as well that the Sex Discrimination Commissioner doesn't know what the sexes are. I mean, it's just a basic function, really, of the job. It's astounding. Now, look, I've got to ask you this because it's been revealed 766 people in New South Wales have changed their sex on their birth certificate without gender affirmation surgery. This is, of course, under self-ID laws since July 1. Sal, of those, 496 men have changed their sex to female because the problem is it's that easy. But the point of this is that all of these men can now enter female-only spaces.
Yeah, there's a few things here. So first of all, Suzanne has done an absolutely amazing job in getting this information, and so all credit to her for doing it. Second of all, so it is quite humorous, aside from everything else, it's quite humorous that when these people go and change their birth certificate, the data on who does it is based on their biological sex. So it just goes to show there's absolutely no escaping biological sex. Then, yes, to answer your question, yes. All of these men, so 500 men in New South Wales can now access female-only spaces. To be honest, any man can because they can just claim it. The Sex Discrimination Commission, in my case, argued it didn't matter. Whether you have a certificate, whether you don't, nothing matters. They can just go in. So it's just the claim that matters. But if they've actually legally changed it, they can do whatever they want. They have the upper hand. We have absolutely no right to say no to them as women if these men are in our spaces. And the only reason they would do it is to go into women's spaces, because you don't need to change your birth certificate as a man to wear a dress, to call yourself a woman, to wear makeup, to do anything you think a woman does. You can do all of that. We actually do live in a pretty liberal, free society where if that's what your expression is, have fun. Do it. But to go into a female-only space, you're going to need the law. And so that's why they've done it. And that's why it's sinister and we're fighting back.
I just think it's extraordinary we're here in this day and age. But, yeah, we are. Sall Grover, good to catch up with you as always. Thank you so much for joining me on the show this evening.